Good morning, everybody. We're getting ready to have our study today. If you'll look with me in 1 Samuel, we're going to start at verse 4, and it says, "Whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of the meat to his wife Penninah and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he gave a double portion because he loved her and the Lord had closed her womb. And because the Lord had closed her womb, her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her." And so we're going to pause right there for just a moment. I can only imagine how Hannah felt to be taunted and provoked, and for Penninah to keep making comments to her. And that brings her to a point of just really devastation. So if we continue on, this went on year after year. So it was many years that this occurred for her. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her till she wept and would not eat. Elkanah, her husband, said to her, "Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons?" So again, this is Elkanah trying to console her in the best way that he knew how and to encourage her and tell her, "Come on, eat." Once they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Now Eli the priest was sitting on a chair by the doorpost of the Lord's temple. In bitterness of soul, Hannah wept much and prayed to the Lord. And she made the vow to him, saying, "O Lord Almighty, if you will only look upon your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head." So the specific scriptures we're going to look at today are verses 9 through 10. And the Message Bible says it like this. So Hannah ate. Then she pulled herself together, slipped away quietly, and entered the sanctuary. Isn't that so like us women to do? To go ahead and try to make everybody else around us feel comfortable, which is, I'm sure, what Hannah was doing when Elkanah was like, "Eat, eat." So she began to eat. And then pulled herself together and slipped away quietly and entered the sanctuary. The priest Eli was on duty at the entrance to God's temple in the customary seat. Crushed in soul, Hannah prayed to God and cried inconsolably. Hannah was in deep anguish, and she began to cry bitterly as she prayed to the Lord. Which brings us to our topic for today, and that is hope that things can change. That no matter what situations you have going on your life, even if they've been going on for years and years and years, to know that when we give those things to God and we continue to pray and focus on Him and to be steadfast in our hope and our faith, that we know that things can change. It doesn't matter what it is, if it's a physical affliction, if it's something in your family, if it's something with your workforce, no matter what the issue is, we do not have to settle for it to stay the same. We know that God can change it. My dogs are barking at the door. So I have a couple of things that I wanted to share with you today, a couple of resources that can help encourage you and that you can turn to help you if you are in a situation that maybe has been going on for several years that can help build your faith. The first thing we're going to look at is in Hebrews, and we are going to Hebrews chapter 4. And we are going to look specifically at verse 16. When you're doing your study at home, if you want to go back and look from Hebrews 4 verses 12 all the way through 16, I would encourage you to do that. And in that verse 16 it says, "Let us then approach the throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need." Christ knows and he is moved with compassion by our weakness and is able to relate to all that we experience in life. We can confidently approach God knowing that our prayers are welcome and desired by our Heavenly Father. That is so encouraging for us to know that He understands where we are. He understands the concerns we have. He understands even like Hannah, maybe we feel crushed in spirit. We are just overwhelmed and almost at that breaking point. He knows that, and He tells us to bring those requests to Him. One of the things that I saw as I was studying for today was this quote. It's a great quote. Where there is no perceived need, there is no request for help, and therefore no divine endowment. So first thing, you got to realize that you have a need. You got to see, you know what? I have a need. I need this situation to change. Don't just become where it's just what it's always been. It's the routine. Take inventory of your house, your life, all the things that you are affected by, and see where you have a need, and then you can bring that request for help and therefore have divine endowment. Now, there's a couple of resources that I was going to share with you. There is a teaching set that you can order from the Ramp. It's called Hope That Things Can Change. It's CDs. It is really, really great information. I'll read you a little bit from the back here. It says, hope is much more than wishful thinking. It is much stronger than a natural emotion or state of mind. Hope is a supernatural expression of the nature of God. I love that. Another one is I just finished reading this book. It's called Watching the Road by Karen Wheaton. Again, you can order this at the Ramp, theramp.org. Great book. She talks about, praying your prodigal home, but really it is a great for your faith. It's a great faith builder, regardless of your situation.